words. Let's just run it. I have Aladdin stuck in my head because Gus watches it 24/7. Check one. Excuse me.
Hello.
Yellow.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
What up, bruh?
What's going on?
I was actually, as the phone was ringing, I was singing. Oh, that's a rap. Phone was ringing. I was singing Aladdin because Gus is obsessed with Aladdin. And da 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 womp womp. And it's been a couple episodes since I've sang on Tackling Tacos, I think. And I think that's probably why we get the 500,000 followers and listeners we get to every episode, is they just all tune in to hear these velvety pipes, I think.
They just go crazy for it, absolutely.
They go crazy. Yeah. And so Lola's always like, dude, stop singing, because you're married, you're already taken, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Don't be doing that to people. It's not fair.
He's back on it.
Yeah, you gotta, there was an old SNL sketch where, I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody being, impersonating, what's that one dude's name? She bangs, oh baby, when she, Ricky, what's his last name? Ricky Martin, nice. Yeah, I was thinking Ricky Gervais, and I'm like, that ain't it. That's that funny British dude. But there was this guy who was Ricky Martin, but he was kind of chubby and funny looking, and he would start singing, and then he'd start unbuttoning his shirt, and every time he'd unbutton a button, his buddy would be like, no, boss, that's too sexy. Don't do it. It's too sexy. And I think, that's what happens when I sing. It's just a little too sexy. Put the kids to bed, you know what I'm saying? You got to be careful. So anybody who is listening to this still, thanks. Thanks for pushing through that stupidity of an intro. It wasn't really, obviously, you could probably tell that was not scripted, but welcome to Tackling Tacos. Nate, welcome to Tackling Tacos, episode 100 and something, and brought to you by Grizzly Coolers, fine folks out the Midwest, Decorah, Iowa, making the dopest coolers. Their merch is super dope. Hat game is dope. Everything they put out, drinkware, cups, it's all awesome. My favorite current Grizzly product is the backpack cooler. It is so freaking sick. It's cool. It looks cool. It feels good. It's designed well. They didn't just slap straps on a you know what I'm saying, a soft-sided cooler. It's really well thought through. Really, really dope stuff. grizzlycoolers.com. Code WCB, Whiskey Charlie Bravo, from our buddies at Working Class Bow Hunter, whose network we're a part of, gets you 15% off. So go to grizzlycoolers.com, get 15% off on some dope coolers. Nate, what's another sponsor? 1, 2, 3, go.
Leopold Performance Eyewear.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Leopold Optics. Eyewear, man, that's
the best.
Without a doubt. I mean, enough said. I think that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? They've been doing the crap for over 100 years. You know what I'm saying? They literally have been doing optics via scopes and binoculars and all that for 10 decades. So I mean, that's pretty impressive. They're going to be pretty good at it in that time, unless they were just complete idiots and they just sucked at it for 10 decades, which they didn't. I feel like if you did anything for 100 years, you're probably going to get good at it. You could tell me today, Jordan, I want you, I really feel like God Almighty has called you to build lawnmowers. And I'd be like, huh, okay. And at first, I would suck at it because I don't know how to build a lawnmower. But I'll bet you in 100 years, I'd have some pretty dope lawnmowers. And that was a terrible illustration, but Loophole has been doing it so well for so long. You can really trust that anything they're going to put their name on, kind of like Grizzly in a certain way. They're not just putting out 12 million products. They're putting out the right, 10, 15 products, because they're not going to waste their time or jeopardize their name that they've been building up for 100 years on some junk. And that's kind of dope, dude.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. You do something that long, you, like you said, you get good at it.
You figure it out.
I think they've even probably taken it a step past good, and are right in your greatness with it.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree more. So, and then of course our homie Brian Schwaller at Giltech. It was crazy, man. I don't know what it was. I posted a picture of the Marabou tube jig on our Instagram, and it got a absolute boatload of shares for some reason. I don't know if it was like, because I've talked about it a lot, but I don't think I've ever really showed a photo of it like inside of a tube like that. And you can really, if you fish, when you see that photo on our Instagram, which all of our socials and YouTube is at Tackle and Tacos, Tackle AND and Tackle and Tacos. But if you see it on our Instagram, it really shows, and that was a shorter tube. I think that was like a 3-inch tube or 3.25 or something like that. But on a shorter tube, it shows how much of that marabou fur, feather, whatever hair sticks out. And if you fish, you can kind of see it in your head. You know what I'm saying, Nate? With that photo, you can kind of see like, oh, whoa, I'll bet you that has some crazy, like fluffy, floaty, undulating action in the water. But that's a Giltech product, and I've never seen anybody else do it. And it's not just like a random jig with some marabou sticking out. Like, it's specifically intentionally designed, the hook design, the weight, the sizes of hooks, the weight size, like the sizes of weight, like the amount of weight. He has different options. It's incredible. Like, seriously, they are some of the dopest lures. Anybody I've ever given them to and uses them is like, oh my gosh, like they just work so well. But yeah, Giltech, that's only available at hookandarrowsupply.com, hookandarrowsupply.com. And then Brian's other new venture, 715sheds.com. He's slanging sheds. He's selling sheds for Old Hickory, I think it's Old Hickory Barns, Old Hickory Shed, something like that. They make some dope stuff, and he just had a bunch of land where he has Hook and Arrow Supply, so he's slanging sheds. So if you need a shed, this is kind of dope. You can go to 715sheds.com and contact Brian, and if there is a Old Hickory shed place anywhere near you, you can order it through Brian and then have it delivered from your place. So you can talk to somebody who's into the hunting, fishing game, the owner of Giltech, and then have a dope shed sent to your house. And we're not sponsored by 715 Sheds, but it's a homie and he's doing some cool stuff. So check that out. Nate, let's get into it. How the crap are you? How has life been since last week when we got to chop it up with the homie Andrew Full of Serious Angler? How have you been?
I've been good. I've been quite well, as they say.
As they say.
As they say, yes. Got to use the proper vernacular.
Yeah, you sound smart.
Well, it's an attempt. It's really that's all it is. There's no truth behind it. No, but I've been good. Been doing a little bit of fishing here and there. Got the kids' baseball stuff going on. Of course, just hanging out with the family, trying to keep up with all of the going on. But I've been good.
I'm glad. That's dope, dude.
Busy enough.
How's the
busy
baseball
enough,
stuff?
but not too busy.
Are you coaching the baseball? Tell us about that.
Yes. I am coaching my son's, one of the coaches for my son's, 8U coach pitch little league team.
Okay, yeah.
Which has actually been going quite well. It's been
good.
Been fun. The team's pretty good. The kids are, how do you say? I don't know. I don't want to say they're sponges, but they're actually like picking up a lot. You know what I mean?
Growing,
like,
and
they are.
You're seeing like evolution.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of growth in some of these kids that's been pretty impressive to watch. So
let me ask you something on that level, and then based a little bit off of our homie Brad, who we've mentioned on the show 45 times. We're going to have him on the show. Champion high school bass fishing coach. And then, your love, my love of bass fishing and just fishing in general. I've always not really ever wanted to fully pigeonhole Tackle and Tacos as bass only. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want it to be everything. Yeah. Like, I just met a dude the other day at work, talked to him for quite a while. His name's Ty Kennedy. Super cool dude. He has this beautiful, it's not really my style of boat. Like, it's a big Lund Tai, which is like a really big boat. It's another one of those ones where, like, you stand next to it and the rub rail is like at your head. Like, they're just massive. I don't know what he's got on the back, but I think it was a 300 Verado, like V8, just a massive motor. And anyway, he's like a big water guy, like salmon and all this stuff. And I would love to talk to somebody like that on the show. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I just think it's cool. Like, regardless of what it is, just the tug is the drug. You know what I'm saying? Like that feeling of the pull on the rod and the curiosity of not knowing what you're tied into. I don't care what kind of fishing it is. Bobber fishing for 7-inch rainbow trouts in a stream with like a floating fly, or salmon fishing in the Great Lakes, to shark fish. I don't care. fishing is fishing. But anywho, with our love of fishing, and then, you know, I've coached our boys, like football teams and stuff, and now you're coaching baseball, and you coached with other things with the boys, or with your boy. Do you think you'll be a high school or like bass fishing coach at some point? Like, have you thought about that?
Yeah, I've definitely thought about it.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I would say, man, it's so much time you have to dedicate. So maybe once my kids get to that scene, and not only can I dedicate the time to the other kids that are fishing, but I still have the opportunity to spend the time with my kids. Because I love spending time with kids and teaching and growing and helping and all this, but I don't want to sacrifice too much of my time with my own children, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
That was kind of a big part of like my growing up, is like not having my parents around, you know,
sure, same,
a ton. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely want to spend as much time with my kids as humanly possible, and it helps that they're pretty dope. Crack me up all the time. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's we get the question a lot. Lola and I do, like, you know, we have 6 kids all together. Again, we're a blended family. And people are like, how do you do it? Blah, blah. Well, like, so Thursday night, this last Thursday night, was the boys' last day in school for the summer, or, you know, before the summer or whatever. And Dom had 3 friends over for a sleepover. Vinny had 1 friend over for a sleepover, plus all the girls. So I think we had 10 kids total in our little log cabin. And people are like, oh, how do you do it? Some of that craziness of being around your kids all the time is just because you're just so freaking in love with them. Like, you just want to be around them. Like, you want them to be around. You want to joke with them. You want to see them do stupid stuff. You want to, I don't know where Gus picked it up. Gus is 3 years old, and the other day he dropped something on the stairs and he goes, what the hell? And me and Lola don't really cuss, like randomly on the podcast, but we're not like big cussers, and I'm not judging anybody, whatever, talk the way you talk, but like, we don't really cuss a ton. So I don't know where he picked it up, but like, just the little fun things you get from like interacting with your kiddos, and just, I don't know, man, it's the best, dude. So yeah, I think I'll want to, but like you said, I don't want to like force anything on my kids. Like, you should definitely tournament bass fish in high school. If they want to, I'm for sure gonna try and fan that flame, the boys and the girls, dude. So dope to see like Christine Fisher, shout out Christine Fisher,
yeah, shout out,
winning was it an open or a kayak? Oh, what was it that she won? She won some big old tournament, and I'm like, I've never thought of women as like second rate in terms of like bass fishing. No diss to like women in other sports, but you know, like a woman boxer can't hang with a male boxer, you know, and I'm not getting into all the trends and all that stupid nonsense. I'm just not bringing that up. But in bass fishing, I feel like it's probably pretty equal, you know, like there's not this giant advantage, other than the fact that I think way more men are way obsessed with bass fishing than women are. But I think as far as like apples to apples, a woman on a bass boat could do anything a man can. Skip a jig, cast far, set the hook, reel him. I mean, there's nothing. You know what I'm saying? There's no like physiological advantage as a male in bass fishing, other than peeing off the boat is way easier because we have a built-in steerer. But other than that, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's it. Although Trait Zaldane peed off the boat when you were fishing with her, so you know
she did,
yeah, which is weird and funny and whatever. But anyway, yeah, so if my boys or my girls want to fish competitively, I'm going to encourage it, but I don't want to like push too hard. And then, yeah, coaching takes a lot. It's a lot of work for sure, dude. But that's rad, man. I'm stoked for you, for your boy in baseball and whatever. But before we jump into, before we jump into what I want to talk about tonight, which is going to sound really serious and heavy, and it kind of is on a certain level, but I don't know, I've been having sort of like my nuts kicked up into my throat lately with our whole like positivity is worth the effort, because I actually do believe it, but I've not always tried super hard to live that, implement that into my daily stuff. And so in a good way, I've been thinking about it a lot more lately. And so I want to share kind of a tragic story that I think, doesn't necessarily need to be spun, but I think if you just look at it differently is also kind of awesome. And yeah, you and I briefly touched base on it earlier today, Nate. And then I also want to take 2 seconds and just press pause, because I'm very, very old, and say like, yo, what would I tell younger self about fishing? Like, what do I wish I knew 10, 15, 20 years ago about fishing that I know now? Like, what would I tell myself if I could go back in time? And then, like, maybe that would change my trajectory and make me even more passionate about fishing, or even more good at fishing. You know what I'm saying? Like, what would I look back on? So before we get to that, though, I talked about it last week briefly with Andrew Full, which, by the way, what a cool dude, right? Like, what a
heck yeah,
dude! You could just talk to that dude all day. Like, you could just hang out with the captain, Andrew Full, all day. And his boat, God dang it, that Suzuki looks so good on the back of that rig, on the back of that Camus, that white and black Camus with the stealth black Suzuki. Woo!
Yeah, it's a heck of a combo for sure. I was, when you sent me the picture of it, I was kind of, I guess I don't want to say surprised, but like I didn't anticipate it looking that good. Like it looks awesome.
It looks like they were like made for each other, like color combo wise, because his boat is really monochromatic, like mostly white with a little bit of black and whatever. So then to have that all black, flat black with the gloss black logos Suzuki on the back of it, gosh, it just looks so stinking cool. Like, it looks very designery, like it looks really trendy, cool, whatever. But anyway, we were talking about with Andrew for a quick second how I stole some of my stepdad's magazines. Pro Bass, The Weekend Angler's Guide to Better Fishing from April 1985. And I want to take 2 seconds and read just a little bit of an article. And it proves a point that I've said many times on this podcast and just in general. But just, I know this sounds dorky to be like, I'm going to read an article, but just stick with me. This is from, again, April 1985 out of a magazine called Pro Bass. This was written by Alan Tarvid, and it's called Balance Your Tackle for Bass and Success. If there's anything worse than having to waste prime early morning fishing time picking out a backlash, it's watching the topwater plug that you just cast disappear in a tire-sized boil while you're doing it. Many anglers waste valuable fishing time and a considerable amount of needless energy fighting their equipment instead of bass. Some backlashes can't be helped, but lots of them are brought on by the anglers themselves. Bass fishermen are handicapping themselves by using unbalanced fishing equipment, and it's costing them. So I could keep going, but that's it. All I wanted to say was 2 seconds. Like, that's the kind of stuff people talk about now. Like, 2025, 40 years later, people talk about that same thing now, having the right power rod with the right reel and the right line, like having it balanced for whatever presentation. Like, you wouldn't want to use like an extra heavy punching stick with like a Nico rig. You wouldn't want to use like a super floppy jalopy glass chatterbait rod for, I don't know, like a jig head minnow, although that might actually work. But anyway, the idea of like balancing your, I'm just saying it's interesting that all the way back in 1985, they were talking about the same stuff we're talking about now. And it just makes me think the thing that I've said so many times, how much fishing stuff is made to catch fishermen versus actually catch fish. Like, stuff that they came out with way back then would absolutely work right now. Don't you think, Nate?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah,
it would work. The mentality would work. The presentation would work. The idea of making sure that you have like the right rod and reel. So when you throw out like a topwater plug, as they called it, and you get a blow up, you're not picking a rat's nest out of your reel, but you're ready to set the hook on him. All these little things are so dope. On the back of this magazine, there's actually a advertisement called the Bagley Bango Lure. Now, everybody knows about Bagley, but Bagley had this thing for a while that was supposed to get really like deeper, quicker, because they shaved the bottom part of the lip, and they called it the Bill Dance shaved lip, which I thought to myself later, why on God's earth would you call it that? like I know you're talking about the lip of the crankbait, but it just makes me think of like Bill Dance, like shaving. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
But it says like, there was a time when fishing 5 to 7 feet was sufficient for taking home a nice stringer of bass. Then word got out that there was a whole society of lazy lunkers way down deep, and these fat rascals don't feel like making any effort to bite something out of their reach. So funny. Like bring home a stringer. Nobody's bringing home a stringer of bass. Nobody's putting bass on a stringer. So I guess fat rascals, fat lazy rascals. So it's so funny that like some things haven't changed and some things completely have. But anyway, I just think it's neat that like we get so obsessed with jig head minnow or like the Alabama rig or a chatterbait or drop shotting or a free rig or I don't give a flip, the banjo minnow, whatever like the hot deal is. And like, I remember listening to I think it was a BTL, a Bass Talk Live, and I can't remember who they were talking to, but they were talking about Texas rigging a worm. And the dude who was the guest was like, yeah, nobody Texas rigs a worm anymore. Please don't talk about it on the show because people are going to start doing it again. Because it works. It never didn't work. That's a double negative. Yeah. But there was never a time that a Texas rigged minnow or a Texas rigged worm did not work. You know what I'm saying, Nate?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely know what you're saying because I don't fish it. Never mind. I don't fish it.
Well, why not?
It doesn't catch fish.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Oh, wink, wink. A wink, wink, wink. Yeah. No. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't throw a weightless. You remember that tournament up on Bone Lake with Bass Attack where we got second place because we fished like retreads, and all I threw was a 4-inch, not even a 5-inch, but a 4-inch Cinco weightless on a 2/0 wide gap hook. Like I used to do when I was a kid. And I only did it because I was like, oh, my motor's not running right. We're not getting super far from like the launch. Let's just goof around. I'm just, playing with house money. And then we ended up in second place because the crap that used to work still works. We don't all have to go to the jig head minnow or tungsten Evo chatterbait or whatever. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy to me. Like what bait I really want to throw again is a sluggo.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. I think I have some old
I do.
Old Texas that a buddy gave me.
Heck yeah.
Old Texas sluggos, yeah.
I know it's like a played out thing, let's only throw retro baits for like a video, but it'd be kind of fun to make a video of just sluggo fishing. Because the other question is, for all you bait folks out there who really care about this stuff, if there was no sluggo, would there be a biffle bug? Because the sluggo is like a longer, skinnier biffle bug tongue. Would there be a Cinco? It's cool to think of all these old lures that kind of stair-stepped new stuff into happening. And I don't know. I think that stuff's dope, dude. I think that's one of my favorite things in Bassmaster magazines is reading about the retro lures. And a lot of them aren't really worth that much, but they're just so cool looking.
Yeah, no, some of the designs and applications that, that were thought of back then are just, they're such a hard to beat. Actually, my brother-in-law, his neighbor, actually gave me a tackle box that he got from like a yard sale or something like that. It's got a bunch of old stuff still in it. So I need to snap some pictures and post them up or something.
You totally should.
It's got some dope stuff still in it.
It felt like they didn't have any limitations back then. And I know like technologically speaking now, like people can do just about anything they want with molds and designs and whatever. But back then people were just like balls out, scot-free, whatever. Like some of the old frog designs and some of the old crankbait designs are so crazy looking. And they're just so cool, dude. I love that old stuff, man.
Did we ever post a picture of that mermaid lure that I shared?
No. Who did you share that with? Who was on the podcast when you showed that?
Oh man,
was it Seth?
I don't remember. I was thinking it was maybe Austin Felix. Maybe not.
It could have been. It could have been Austin. I can't remember. But you got to show that. That's the goofiest little deal ever.
Yeah.
But the thing is too is like we overthink it because like bass will eat just about anything.
Oh yeah, if I fished that, something would eat it. Although in this case, that wasn't exactly its intention, I don't think. But something would try to eat that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that one dude that I really want to have on the podcast. I think he'd be really fun. So if anybody knows this dude, and Nate, you should know him. He's in Iowa. There's a YouTuber named Marling Baits. I think it's how Marling. He's a really goofy dude. I'm pretty sure that's like his job now is his YouTube. First off, he's goofy. Second off, he's a freaking artist. He is incredible with the woodwork and the paint jobs and whatever. But he's made some really, really goofy videos where he literally takes a block of like cedar and stains it and puts a hook on it and throws it out and catches fish. You should look him up though, Marling Baits. He makes some really cool videos. He's from Iowa. It'd be cool to have him on the podcast, but it kind of proves that maybe we're overthinking this whole thing a little bit. But let's transition, Nate. Let's talk about a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Let's start with a word of advice for your younger self. If you could go back 20 years from now and give yourself advice as it relates to fishing, what would it be? I have two that I'll start with, and then you jump in, Nate. The first one is a cheater one. The first thing I would do if I jumped back 20 years and bumped into, much younger Jordy, I would say, hey, start a bass fishing podcast right now. That would be the first thing I would do. Because then in 2025, that would be my living. Because back then there was like 11 podcasts. And if you put out a podcast once a month, you were probably like excelling past everyone in the world. And now there's 476,000 podcasts just about how to chop a carrot. So, I mean, it's hard to stand out. That'd be my first one. Yeah. That's cheating. The second one, this is really real talk. It might sound a little cliche or rhetorical or I'm just taking the easy way out, but I actually thought about this today at work when you and I were touching base on this. Also, did you see that picture I posted? That Merc had 6,000 running hours. It was like 6,600.
Yeah, that's insane.
But here's the crazy thing. For anybody who's listening to this who may be in the marine world, might be like a marine tech, I'm looking your way, Andy and Jordan and the homies at Team Marine and Lacrosse. I'm sure you guys already know this. There was a time when Merc could not supply their own parts for their engines. And so a lot of people know that there's this one, what is it, like 2 or 3 year stretch where they called them Yamamercs or Mercahas, where they're literally Mercuries with Yamaha made guts on the inside. So that's like a thing. And that Merc in that photo is a Yamamerc in the Instagram post. So it's almost like, whoa, a Mercury made it to 6,000 hours. And then it's also like, did they though? Because that's
right.
That there's a Yamaha. You know what I'm saying? Like, which also gives like, shout out to Yamaha, because everybody knows Yamahas run, like they're great motors. But yeah, that's wild. But anyway, so the other thing I would say as I was thinking about this today at work is I think I would really like have you seen Back to the Future 2, Nate?
I mean, I've probably seen it, but I can't recall the last time that I saw it.
You can't quote the whole film?
No, sir.
New. So in Back to the Future 2, I think it's 2, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. What's the bad guy's name? Biff. So Biff, old Biff bumps into young Biff, and he gives him that sports almanac that has all the scores from like 1990 to like 2000. Whatever it is, 2005, whatever. And young Biff is like, cool, thanks, Grandpa. And he's like, no, you idiot, stop. Look at this. Like, actually look at this and consider what I'm giving you. Like, this is a one-way ticket to international fame, just being rich beyond your wildest imagination, because you can literally bet every single game and get every single game right. Like, this is a one-way ticket to Easy Street. Like, he has to like look him in the eye and like really like, hey, pay attention. Look, this, don't just put this book down. Hold on to it, you idiot. I would do that same type of thing with myself, and I would be like, look here, you idiot. Actually, factually, legitimately put effort into being positive. Stop getting spun out. Stop getting worried about stuff. Stop tripping when by 1 o'clock you only have 3 fish in the well in a tournament, or you're fishing for muskies in the last 3 days you've only raised up 1 and had 2 follows, whatever. I just think if I could really get myself, like, I look back on so many moments fishing where I've essentially, I mean, this is me being pretty vulnerable with you, Nate, with anybody listening, like no jokes, like no funny little one-liner punchline at the end of it. But like, I've ruined days on the water. I've ruined tournaments on the water. I've ruined fishing trips with my wife on the water just from like allowing my emotions to get negative. And then it's hard for me to dig myself back out. So not only do you not fish as well, I think, when you're negative, when you're, and some people can do it. Like Ike, he can get all freaked out and flip out, and maybe not. Maybe if he was honest, he would say he fishes worse too. But I know when I allow myself to get all like where I just want to, back in the day when I was just a scrappy little dummy who would punch people on the drop of a hat, like I get that feeling while fishing, and it ruins it. It ruins the day. My mind doesn't think as clearly. I don't make the right decisions. And everybody knows, from when Polinick said it on this podcast to Adam Krieger said it, the difference between a good fisherman and a great fisherman is between your ears, and it's decision making. The boys at Serious Angler podcast just put out a really good episode. You should listen to it with Patrick Walters. And he talked about the importance of decision making and how to make the right choices on the water. And I can guarantee you the wrong way to make a choice on the water is to do it while upset, is to do it while angry, because your brain is just clenched up. It's like if you take your hand and squeeze it into a fist as hard as you can't really do a whole lot with your hand other than hit things. It's not open. You can't grasp. You can't use. You can't write. You can't whatever. You can't play a piano. You know what I'm saying? You can't tie a knot in a fishing line. And that's how your brain is, just clenched up and not really able to serve its full function. And I wish I could go back in time in regards to fishing, hunting, just all outdoor endeavors, and like Biff and Back to the Future 2, be like, dude, just be more positive. Okay, sure, I will. No, stop. Really, like, actually put an effort into being more positive, because you can actually change the way that your mind works. You can actually change your vibe, your aura, your ethos. You really can change it. It takes effort, but it's possible. And I just think that I'd probably be way better at fishing. I think I would have won a lot more tournaments, and I think I would have just had a whole lot more fun if I would have learned to just calm the F down, not let one missed fish or one weird boat issue or one whatever keep me from having fun. And so that's my advice to myself. That if I could go back and talk to myself 20 years ago, that's what I would say.
Man, got a little deep with it there.
Yeah, I got a little preachy. I don't mean to, but I was just thinking, like when I brought the question up to you, what's one thing you would focus on if you could, to your younger self, or however I said it. At first I was like, well, I probably should learn how to skip a jig earlier. I probably should have learned how to, tie a FG knot earlier. I probably should have diversified tackle earlier. I probably should have gotten better with a spinning rod earlier, invested in live scope earlier. And then I was like, what's bigger than all those things is like in between my ears. And I've never, I'm good at being real positive when things are going well, but that's easy. And that ain't hard.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Aaron Rodgers, if he wins a Super Bowl with the Steelers, if he did, it's real easy for him to be smiling on the parade. You know what I'm saying? It's not as easy to be smiling when he plays the Packers and whatever week it is, and Lucas Van Ness decides to learn how to play football again and just rips his head off on a sack. It's harder to be like positive in those moments, but it's worth more. And so, yeah, I just want to be a more positive dude all around, but especially while fishing, man, especially while fishing. Just like when you press pause, you know what I'm saying, Nate? When you just take a second and look around, like, what the F do you have to be upset about? You live in a free country where you're on the water, trying to catch like these little swimming, what do you call them? Fat rascals.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like life could be so much worse. There's always something positive to focus on. And so, that's what I would tell myself. What do you got, Nate?
That's a good one. I don't know if I've come up with anything quite that juicy.
Shut up.
But no, everybody says like kind of when you're talking about everybody always says like, what makes, better fishermen. We've talked about, what's between the ears and staying focused and confident and positive and all this. But then, the other side, or the other thing that a ton of people have mentioned, is time on the water. Time on the water.
Yeah, you can't
go
replace
fishing.
It. You can't replace it.
You cannot replace it. And that's one thing that I like. Looking back, I had the opportunity to change back in the day. Would definitely have been to.
Hello? Oh, come on. Nate. What just happened? Unbelievable. Nate says one thing I would was to, I'm calling him back. Nate. Nate, are you there?
I am.
What the heck, dude? Sure. What is up with us lately, dude? We had Andrew last week, and then right now you said one thing I would change is to, and then it went blank. Like it was literally like you were messing with me.
No, yeah, my phone completely disconnected. How?
Perfect.
I have absolutely no idea. But yeah,
perfect. All right,
she shut down on me.
Pick it right back up. One thing you would change is to.
Yeah, the one thing I would change is to simply fish more.
You can't fake that.
You cannot. And when I first got into it, I had so much more opportunity with like less stuff going on, and I didn't fish as much then as I do now. Now I've got kids, I've got sports, taking care of the wife, working a ton of hours. Like I always have a bunch of stuff going on, and today I fish more than I did 15 years ago when I bought my first boat, and all I had to worry about was going to work and putting gas in my truck. Like just it's crazy to think like had I started when I did start fishing, if I would have put the sort of time and effort that I do now into it, how much better I would be today. And in that same sense, like fishing early on, especially tournament fishing, like man, kind of how you said, like being negative and ruining days on the water. Yeah. I never really had those moments like
that's
where
not your vibe at all.
No, it's not. And I never had those moments where I'm on the water and I'm just wanting to throw all my rods in the water or something like that.
I've never broken a rod like on purpose ever, which I'm somewhat surprised about because I've broken
that does surprise me
I don't know bit. Hundreds of skateboards back in the day, and taking my snowboard off like when I've been at like a street spot and thrown it into the handrail and taking a big chip out of it and just flipped. I've never broken a rod, which I'm pleasantly surprised about. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, no, I guess where I was going with that is all of those, early tournaments I fished where I had just massive failures, just, not catching any fish or catching one fish or, not putting things together. I would say a solid portion of that came from obviously not putting the time in, but sure. then B, which might even be more important, is not learning from those failures early enough. Like,
deep. Yeah.
I didn't, if I didn't fish well, I didn't fish well. I didn't try to.
That was it.
And I didn't exactly. That was it. I just didn't catch them. Oh well. But I didn't try to analyze, why I didn't catch them, where I should have been trying, what else I could have done. Lures, techniques, areas, water temperature, time of year. Like I didn't think about any of that stuff. And, I think these two things really coincide with each other,
sure,
quite a bit, but, not learning from those mistakes. Cause, everybody says like, if you have a failure, it's not necessarily it's a failure, but it's, it's a, an attempt to get better, the next time. And I didn't learn that lesson early enough. It's taken a few years, but I would say over the last few years of like really, putting time in and thinking like, heck, why did I not do as well this time as I've done in the past? Or what can I do to change what I did this time? And, I'm not going to go fish the same 6 spots that I fished the last 3 tournaments and try to do something a little bit different, and grow as an angler. It took me quite a while, and I would say a little too long to kind of start putting that stuff together. But
yeah, that's good.
I feel good about it now. There's definitely days where I've gone out and things have not gone well, but I've learned from it and not only learned from it, but like retained that knowledge or what I've learned. Let that sink in and really be able to use it for the next time.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know how many times I'd go out and I'd pre-fish and I wouldn't catch fish where I had caught fish before, and instead of thinking, oh well, maybe I shouldn't go there. Maybe they just weren't there this time, and I'll go there, and I'll go there anyways.
Yeah.
And we'll try her again, and yeah, they're still not there. So
well, that didn't work. Let me try it again.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll take another run at it. Exactly. Yeah. There was a lot
of spots that didn't work. Well, that first spot didn't work, and the second spot and the third spot, none of them worked. So let me start back over at the first spot.
Yeah, and they didn't work last week, so. Yeah, just a lot of that,
that's a good combo. It's a good combo.
I think it's pretty solid, and it doesn't. The same sort of thought process doesn't have to just resonate with fishing or tournament fishing. I think that's a life lesson in itself. Learn from those failures early on, and you can become much more successful much faster.
Yeah, I think what you said, I think you nailed it. I think you hit the nail right on the head. Like a combination, like the amalgam of time in whatever thing it is you're passionate about, if that's baking or fishing or hunting or being a mechanic, spend a ton of time doing that thing and then combine that with learning from the things that you mess up or learning from the things you even succeed in but you can get better at, whatever. That's a good combination. Spending a ton of time on the water, and then I've heard dudes do that as far as like learning new techniques. Like I really want to get good at big swim baits. That's a real common one. And so they'll go on the water and they'll have two rods and they're both big swim bait rods. They won't have, because if you had a big swim bait rod and then you go out and you're like, oh man, I bet they're really hitting them on a Nico rig. Well, you're not throwing a Nico rig on a 7'8" Magnum heavy, whatever, with like a Tranks reel, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So you kind of take everything else out. So you force yourself to spend more time in it, and then as you're spending that time, you learn from it. I've heard dudes too. I don't know who's done this. Who the heck is it? But I've heard dudes on other podcasts, and I so admire their. I don't even know I so admire their like administrative skills, their discipline, I guess you could say. But I've heard stories of dudes who will go on the water and as they're trying to learn a new technique or learn a new lake, they're literally bringing like a notebook and writing down notes on water clarity, water temperature, depth, what worked, what didn't, lure color, lure speed, whatever. And I'm like, dude, obviously, if you're doing all that, you're going to get better at it. Like, I don't think you have a choice. Like, you're going to get better at it. And I'm the same dude as you used to be. Oh, man, that chatterbait didn't work there. Oh, I bet it'll work there, though. Nope, it didn't work there. But I bet it'll work there, though. Nope, it didn't. Like, just not really putting the pieces together. And, I think that's a great bit of advice to yourself or whatever, something you could change from 15 years ago, Nate. I think that's great.
Yeah. I feel like part of that plays in, like I said, I've done a little fishing over the last, just on Saturday I went and did kind of some pre-fish fishing, did some scouting in some areas and stuff like that. But I've kind of noticed like the last, 5, 6, 7 times that I've gone out, like I approach an area and I've been fishing, a chatterbait for the last 30 minutes straight. I haven't caught anything. I come to a bend on a bank or a creek point and something, and instead of throwing the chatterbait in there again, which honestly I could have gotten bit, but I'll pick up something that to me makes more sense for that situation and throw in there, and in that cast or the very next cast I'm catching a fish. That's happened in absolute ton over the last few times that I've been out, and just that time on the water, that stuff that I wouldn't have realized early on, and I would have just kept, dragging the old tube right through there, and they're not really
force feed them, boy. Force feed them.
They're not one to eat, but if you can get them to react to it, you snap her quick enough.
Yeah, they might turn around. Right. One other bait might just smoke them. But speaking of force feeding them, do you remember a couple of years ago we were pre-fishing up on the Chippewa flowage? It was like 2 days before I took the lower unit off of my boat, on my motor of my boat, of course. And I had just gotten that St. Croix rod with a Cast King, and honestly, like, no shame in my game, dude. Like, if you want to spend a bunch of money on Shimano and Daiwa reels, I think they're worth it. I actually believe they're worth it. Lose Hyper Mags. Those Baits reels are freaking dope. They're awesome. If you want to spend the money on that, do it, dude. I would never be like, it ain't worth it. It is worth it. They're incredible. But some other stuff too, like some Cast King stuff. Like we got our son Vinny, like a hot lime green bait casting reel for his birthday, a Cast King one, and it was on. I think it was an $80 reel, and it was on sale for like $60 on Amazon. That thing's smooth. Like it works really well. It's super easy to cast. It's got good adjustment. The tension knob clicks, which I think quick inside tip, I guess you would say. What do you call that? Like a little hack for anybody who's trying to help their kids learn how to use a bait caster. Make sure they're using a bait caster that the tension knob clicks. So you can say, try 2 more clicks tighter. Try 1 more click tighter. Try 3 clicks more open. Not just adjust it a little bit. Like when you can hear that as you're adjusting that tension knob, it works better for their brains, and
That's a really good point.
And it works better for your brain as the coach to be like 2 clicks forward, 3 clicks back, whatever, as opposed to turn it a little. Anyway, but I got that St. Croix rod with that Cast King Speed Demon reel, which I think is like a 10.9 to 1. It's some insane gear ratio, and it was like $120 I think on Amazon. But I bought it specifically for what, Nate?
Little old buzz bait rod.
That is correct. Now everybody's talking like old Pat Schlopper from down the block invented buzz baiting because he threw it some on the Sabine. Buzz baiting has been an absolute bass killer forever. I guarantee in these old school magazines I got somewhere in there's an article about buzz baiting, and I love throwing me a buzz bait. I don't even know if I want to tell you what my favorite buzz bait is because I don't want anybody else to learn about it, but F it, let the juice loose. Gancraft, the Japanese, the JDM company that makes those jointed claws, like incredible swim baits. They make some of the nastiest buzz baits and spinner baits on the planet. Some of the nastiest buzz baits and spinner baits on the planet. I've never, and I'm a lure tinkerer times 10. I love gluing in Colorado blades hanging out of like the little like bee-hole area of a floating frog. I love linking up like a 2-hook jerkbait to the front of a 3-hook jerkbait and seeing what that does. I like throwing all kinds of weird combination of stuff together and donkey rigs and modifying lips, putting oil inside of deep diving crankbaits, all kinds of weird stuff, right? Like it's just, I don't know. It's just fun. You don't even have to mess with this buzzbait. And buzzbaits are a very tinkerable thing to make them squeak more, to make them flap more, to make them spit more water on top. The Gancraft buzzbait is the squeakiest plus splashy blade buzzbait I've ever thrown. They're expensive. They're not cheap. But sweet Jesus, they are awesome. Anyway, all this roundabout way to get to it. So I'm trying to absolutely freaking force feed these bass a buzzbait on the Chippewa flowage. I'm trying to force feed. We're in all kind of water that just looks so buzzbaity. And then the Lord Jesus himself spoke, and I went to make a cast, just a cast. I didn't do nothing. It was a double negative and a half. I ain't do nothing. Didn't load it up super heavy. Didn't do like a yeet, like a quick yeet cast. Like it was just a regular cast. And this was a 7.4, I think, 7.4 medium heavy St. Croix rod. It had literally made maybe 50 casts in its entire life. Like I literally bought it for this tournament. I was throwing it with 20-pound Sunline Supernatural Mono, which is a great buzzbait line, with a Gancraft buzzbait. And I go to make a cast, and it goes and snaps right above the handle. Like just snaps all the way through the blank. And so it was like,
Clean broke.
You remember that?
I do, yeah.
And that was the second time it broke.
Yeah.
Because earlier the handle broke completely.
The handle broke. We had to re-glue the reel seat back on.
The reel seat completely came loose from the rest of the blank. And luckily, I'm not much of a super glue guy for like plastics. I have it in the boat, but I'm not much of a super glue guy. Luckily, Nate had some super glue, and we super glued the seat, the reel seat, and the threads back on the daggum rod so I could actually use it. And then we get it fixed again, and just completely snaps. And so I was like, okay, all right, don't force feed them. That's how I took that. Like the force feeding.
That was the sign, yeah.
That was the sign.
They don't want it.
Yeah, that was God looking down from heaven with his hand on his face. Like, you dummy, stop it. It ain't working. It ain't working. I mean, have you ever done that, Nate? Have you ever been in a derby?
I tried the day before.
Yeah, have you ever been in a derby and you're trying so hard to throw something and that little voice in the back of your head is like, it's not working. It's not working.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the opposite of like what you said, where, I tried over there and it didn't work, so I tried over here and it still didn't work. Maybe in practice, square bills on riprap on non-shaded banks was absolute murder. So your brain is like, it's going to work. And it's just not working. And there's that voice in the back of your head like, dude, put it down. Stop it.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, I've been there so many times where I'm trying to catch my fifth fish and I caught the first 4 from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And now by 2 o'clock, it's a completely different ball game because the sun is up higher, the weather's different, the barometric pressure shifted, the wind has changed directions, and I'm still throwing the same freaking thing. And in the back of my head, it's like, put it down, you idiot. So maybe it was good. Maybe I should just have more rods snap, and then I have to change tactics.
Yeah. That's definitely one way to look at it. But yeah, no, I've had not the same situation where things like the sign was that like clear cut, to stop throwing something. But one of the tournaments I fished kind of earlier this year, I was absolutely just wearing my arm out, throwing a half-ounce jackhammer.
Yeah.
Beehive Delight, the absolute
Best.
juice.
The juice.
With a Zaco, I think it's called Green Gizzard Shad trailer on it, and I've caught just an incredible number of fish on that combo.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. And I'm throwing it around the sand flat. It's like spawning sand flat, for like 2.5 hours. Just hucking it.
Just
as
wearing
far
them
as
out.
And
well,
my
trying to
arms
wear them out, but wearing yourself
exactly.
out.
Yeah. And then I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I switch over to a white, a chatterbait, mini max with a little spunk shad on the back of it. And I start swinging that around, a much smaller rod, a much lighter setup, a much smaller chatterbait, and like
different color.
A completely different color, completely different sound and action and size and profile and everything. And like 4 casts, I catch one. Then like 4 later, 4 or 5 casts later, I catch another one. And I end up with 3 fish in like 15 minutes, and I fish for 3 hours.
And you're like, how many did I not catch that I could have caught if I would have done this earlier?
Exactly. Like it was insane. Yeah. And then proceeded to catch every fish of the tournament on that same bait. So
that's a killer too. I haven't thrown the what's it called even? The baby jack.
Evo. Oh, the baby jack, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't thrown it yet. I've had every intention of stopping by Shields almost every day when I go home, but I haven't yet. But I feel like that's got to be absolutely disgusting because like the mini max is awesome, and for a chatterbait that's not that pricey, it's really really good. So then just to up to like the jackhammer quality parts as far as like the thinner blade, the shape of the head, the better hook, the more definition in the skirt, and get that compact size, boy, that's got to be deadly. Has to be deadly.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I haven't seen any around here locally. Those or the Evo Mini Max either.
Yeah, Evo Mini. Yeah. They make some cool stuff. It's so funny. Like I remember when I very very first started really getting into chatterbait fishing was a bit before. I don't know. I'm not sure, a year maybe. I'm really not very good on timelines like that very often. Like sometimes I can pinpoint stuff. Other times I just like when some people will be like old dudes will be like, yeah, it was 1947 in October. I'm like, how the heck do you know that? Like how in the name of, I can't do it. Anyway, it was about a year, I think, before the jackhammer came out that I was really getting into chatterbait fishing. I remember fishing with our homie Jake DeVolder back in his strip mines and just wearing them out on like white and even black blue, which doesn't make any sense how those could both work in the same body of water, and being like, dude, chatterbaits are so fun, and I got Jake into them and we're loving it. And then the jackhammer came out and I'm like, dude, this is unbelievable. This is like such next level of the chatterbait. It's crazy. But I remember then thinking like I feel like this lure, though, on a certain level and in terms of newness, has a shelf life. Like, they can't just keep coming out. It's the same thing. Like, yeah, every lure is the same, you know. And then they came out with the Freedom Head, and that was okay. And they've come out with some that have like, you know, like marabou skirts, and you know that's okay, different colors and. But at the same time, though, they come out with the Stealth Blade, and so many people don't like it. It is freaking awesome in really, really clear or cold water presentations. The Stealth Blade is a monster. And then they come out with the Mini Max, monster. Come out with the Baby Jack, monster. Come out with the Evo, incredible. Come out with the Tungsten Evo, incredible. It's crazy to me in a lure category that's so specific that they can keep on coming up with like little tweaks, and they're all freaking dope. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like from the outside looking in, if you weren't really in the weeds on bass fishing lures, you just think like, well, chatterbait's a chatterbait. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And it's almost like the release of the new chatterbait, whatever it may be, is almost like so like timed perfectly to the point where like you've been catching them on, you know, X chatterbait for so long that it seems like that bite has kind of died off.
And that little difference.
And then they pop out with something that's, you know, the painted blades on the Evo or, you know, just something a little bit different and right back on fire.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, even like I remember spending, I don't know, $25-$30 on fire craw jackhammers for a while when you could not get them, like could not find like the Blaze orange and red jackhammers, like you just couldn't. And there's a funny story of me and Lola fishing with Jake in the strip mines where his family has some land in Illinois, and she snagged one in about 17, 18 feet of water, and that's when they were at their like get them on eBay for $50-$60 a piece. And so it was May maybe, so it wasn't cold out, but it definitely wasn't swimming weather. And I stripped down to my underwear and dove in and held the line as I like worked my way down and dislodged it from a log and like all the way to the bottom. And like, I'm a grown man, but when you get far enough down in the water to where your ears start popping and the thermocline hits and it changes temperatures like really drastically, and it's so dark, like it's so dark when you get down that deep, like, you know, this is pretty clear water, but even in this setup, like early in the season, the water wasn't totally clear yet. It was a little milky. So as I got deeper, it got darker. It was a little spooky, like it was a little crazy, but in my head, it was like, I can't lose this lure. And so I got it, pulled it back up, got back up on the boat, freeze my butt off for a little while till I dried out in the sun. And then, you know, and it was like, I can't remember, somebody asked me like the next day, maybe it was Jake's brother, Joe, who's like a really smart, really practical, very like engineering type mindset type dude. And he's like, was it worth it? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like it wasn't even a question. You know what I'm saying? Cause like this is a fire craw jackhammer. Also, the orange blade fire craw jackhammers are not as juicy as the black blade fire craw jackhammers, just to be clear. Also, I paid $50 for a JDM flat black jackhammer. And those are also extremely juicy, really, really juicy. Because I also thought to myself, why don't I just put a black skirt on a jackhammer and spray paint it black? Because when I spray paint it, it smells like spray paint. I don't really want my lures to smell like spray paint in the water. But anyway, all right, let's transition away from that. We could talk about jackhammers. We could talk about, especially no Lola. Lola's not even out here. If Lola's here, she would go to work because she just. My wife, she is still a host of Tackling Tacos. She's just, you know, we're in a crazy time right now. She'll come back out at some point. But man, she will just throw a jackhammer all over the place, and she will catch fish left and right and just mop them up. But let's transition to the one thing that I wanted to talk about tonight. And we can kind of end on this because, again, I think it could be looked at as negative, but I really don't mean it to be. Are you cool with that, Nate, if we switch gears?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally ready for it.
Okay, word up.
What you told me about this is a pretty dope story.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
You look at it the right way.
Exactly right. Yep, exactly right. Positivity is worth the effort. It actually factually is. But so at work, I work at a place called Zacco's in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. We're a marine dealership. We're one of the top Lund dealers in America. We store people's boats. We do everything that a marine service place would do. We hook up electronics, whether that's like a 5-inch Helix or a full-blown like Mega Live 2 or live scope setup with like the new Garmin Force and like all the craziest stuff to the simplest stuff. We're in a lot of walleye country here, so most dudes do their like live scoping on like those little poles they put in the water, which I don't like that, but if that works for you, that's dope. Knock yourself out. And we store boats. We have a huge barbed wired in camera covered storage yard. And so we winterize boats, we store boats for people, and we even do like insurance claims. Like if somebody damages their boat, they bring it in and we look it over, work with their insurance, blah, 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 blah. So not too long ago, a fella, probably my age, probably like in his early 40s, brought in a Tuffy graphite fishing boat. And Tuffies are... I always had a soft spot for Tuffies when I was younger because I remember reading Muskie Hunter magazine and all these like muskie articles in Fisherman, and Tuffy, Tuffy, was like a very E-Sox, muskie and pike specific boat. And so I've always thought they were super cool. They always had like these, like the hull design was neat, graphite. They were cool. I thought they were awesome boats. And this guy brings in a Tuffy, and the whole side of it is it's not like super, super far, but it's pretty smashed in. The side of the boat is smashed in, and he has a trailer just like my Legend with a spare tire like mounted on like a little holder on the frame, like on the starboard side, on the right side of the trailer. And that tire, that spare, is like pushed up into the boat, and obviously there was an accident. And I'm of course I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to say who these people are because I respect them and I don't want it to be weird. But what happened? What's going on, or how can we help you? Whatever. Turns out this young dude, he's not young, but the younger of the people I'm about to talk about, shares a quick story about his dad, who was a fisherman, and I believe, if I can remember the story right, he was going to hitch up his boat to his truck, and as he was hitching it up, he had a heart attack and backed into it and smashed like into the boat, and then ended up dying. And so then I'm looking at this boat like, whoa. And I think you could easily take that as like, well, geez Louise, wah, wah. Like, what a sad story. Yeah. Like, geez Louise. And it is. Like, there is obviously truly an element of sadness there, but there's also like this element of, not to get too preachy and too stand on a soapbox and whatever. And I'm certainly not judging anybody on any level. But daggum, man, like, we are legitimately not promised tomorrow. Like, we don't know what's going to happen at the end of tonight. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. And so, like, take advantage of the time we have on this earth and go fishing. Spend time with your family. Go eat some good food. Go smoke some ribs. Go check out the world, whether that's Hayward, Wisconsin, or traveling to, I don't know, whatever, Mount Everest, or go get genuine Thai food in Thailand. I don't know, but I just think like we don't have that much time. You never know when something's going to happen like that. And so now that boat is still there. It's still at our place. Because they just had the insurance come look at it. And I actually just talked to the gentleman again the other day, and he was like, well, what do we do with the boat? And I was like, well, what do you want to do with it? Do you like want to take it back? Or, obviously it's totaled. It's not worth a whole lot. And so you tell me. And he's like, well, I don't think we really want it. I think they see it as like a negative thing potentially, which makes sense. But also I sort of see it as like a beautiful thing, because this was a dude's boat, and I just look every time I go by it in the boatyard, on a tractor when I'm grabbing other people's boats for them or whatever. I'm talking about every time I go by it, I look at it and I'm like, dude, how many fish were caught out of that thing? How many times did he throw a Suic thriller or a top raider or a bucktail and raise up a big muskie and have his heart just go, get all excited, and then it was a heart attack bumping into his boat that killed him. And so there's a certain element of it that's like pretty sad, but also a certain element that's like, that's dope. Like, this dude was going to fish. This dude had a fishing boat. And I just think at the end of my life, I'm not going to look back at it and be like, I wish I could have checked Instagram just one more time. I wish I could have spent, one more hour at work, tidying up paperwork. Yeah. Nope. I'm going to be like, dude, I wish I would have taken my kids out on the boat one more time. I wish I would have put the boat on the water and targeted, the state record smallmouth for Wisconsin one more time. That's, by the way, one of my like closet dreams is to catch the state record smallmouth in Wisconsin. Yeah, I just, so it's a tragedy. It's a really tragic thing that somebody would die like that, but it's also kind of upside down, backwards, sort of beautiful, because life is weird and it's great and it's terrible and it's wonderful and it's hard, but we don't know how much time we have. And so I would just really lovingly, I'm not trying to be preachy. I know it probably sounds so freaking preachy, but I'm really not trying to be. But really, really, man, like take time, like hug your kids, kiss your wife. You know what I'm saying? Give your wife a hickey tomorrow. I don't know. Like get on the water, like go fish. Stop working so much. like get after it, dude. If there's a lake you've always been wanting to fish, go freaking fish it. Like, go fish it. There's a lake near us that Lola and I have heard so much about, and I think it's just because the name is so cute, but I also think it's probably a pretty good fishing lake called Potato Lake, and we've never fished it, and there's no reason not to. It's so stupid. Like, let's go fish it. We have this beautiful bass boat that I'm literally looking at right now while I'm recording this. Go fish. Yeah, make your life dope, because you don't know how long it's going to be.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's, man, thinking about that, like, everybody says, if they want to go out doing something they love. And that guy, like, he was, that's exactly what he was about to do. Was, he had that love in his heart, ready to, get out and go chase some big muskie, and even just go out and just make a ton of casts just to get the opportunity to see a couple of fish. Such a cool and tragic kind of deal. Like, sweet, awesome story. I would look at that boat kind of the same way you are every time I would see it. And funny thing is a Tuffy is like the first boat that I actually like fell in love with. As you're like,
I don't think I knew that.
As you're like scrolling through, or like in today's marketplace, I think it was Craigslist back in the day. As I was perusing the internet for my first bass boat, I came across, I don't even know what year it was, but it was an old Tuffy, boat with like the stick steer. You know what I'm talking about, where
for sure.
Have the steering wheel. It's got the stick steer for the left and the right. And
of course,
it was such an old boat. It was the reason, I guess, it was cool to me. Like, it was super cool. But it was like $500. So like back in the day, like it was a feasible unit for me.
Sense,
exactly. So, man, I should really just go buy that boat. I don't know how many times I looked at it and went back and forth and thought and should have done it and never did. I ended up, getting a boat a little bit later, but that would have been a cool rig.
Not a Tuffy though.
No, not a Tuffy.
Should have been.
Should have been. Yeah, it would have been a cool rig to get and fish out of. Speaking of cool rigs, while we're kind of transitioning out, talking about small boats and stuff. I was fishing on Saturday, and we had been out from 6 a.m. on the water until I think this was probably right about 5 p.m. So like we've been spent a good number of hours trying to find some fish on this dang old river. And as we're approaching the ramp to take out, a truck pulls in, and it's a fairly nice kind of jacked up, I'd say mid 2000s GMC, kind of like what I used to have, that that round body style 2000, 1, 2, 3 type of year. And he spins around, and he has a 16-foot ebb tide Dynatrack.
Ebb tide, jeez.
Yes, on the back of this thing, and it has green carpet, and it's like a cream color with like a green stripe down the side, and it's a Dynatrack 160 on it, and an old Merc, like the old kind of like the rounder shaped Merc with like the blue stripe on it, 80 horse, and this older guy, he hops up in it. He cracks a beer before the boat's even in the water. Before the boat's even in the water. Yeah. Exactly. And backs down, and it was like 3 cranks, and that thing fired off. And the puff of
smoke everywhere.
Yeah,
you can
the
smell.
puff of smoke went up. It was amazing. It was such a cool boat, and it was in such good shape. And that dude, it was a guy and a couple older guys. They were just getting ready to go out, just have a good old time. It was so cool, just like seeing that, like
that's dope
scene kind of take place, and I just cracked up. And that guy got everything situated, got ready, sat in his boat. His buddy started backing him down before the tires even got wet. The beer goes. he was ready to go.
Yeah, that's dope.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was so cool.
I think I told you that before, that my grandpa Bob, when we would go to Hayward every year, I was just a little annoying Spitfire kid bouncing off the walls. I want to fish. Blah, 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 blah. Like whatever. Like I just wanted to be on the boat. Fishing from the dock was cool, but fishing from the boat, that was fishing. And I'm just dying. My dad didn't have a boat. My Uncle Brad didn't have a boat. We had like resort ones, but they were like 14-foot Lunds with like legitimately like, what were they back then? Like 8.8. It was a really weird horsepower on the back of it. And it was like a pull start Evinrude that it would start when it felt like it, basically, choking it out and trying to get it to go, and hitting that primer bulb and all that old stuff. And my grandpa had an old brown, it was green originally, and then he had it painted with like a metallic brown. It's actually pretty dope looking. It looks like those new like Tundras that you see everywhere, rare once in a while, the brown ones, which are impossibly dope. Like, it doesn't seem like a brown truck should be dope, but they actually look kind of fresh. Anyway, it was like that, like sparkly brown. It was a Starcraft, and it had I wish I could remember what motor on the back. It was an Evinrude for sure, but I don't remember what model it was. But him launching the boat was like you and I planning a strategy to overthrow, I don't know, the Canadian government. Like, it was like this impossibly like complex, and maybe overthrowing the Canadian government wouldn't be that hard, I don't know, but anyway, it was like this impossibly complex series of events that had to occur for him to get the boat in the water, which is so funny because nowadays, like when you and I fish a derby together, like it's like spades. I'm driving, I get to the ramp, we switch spots, I get in the boat, you back me up, you park, I pull back up to the ramp, and then I pull back up to the dock, I put it in reverse just in time, so I start backing up as you're stepping on, and we're out of there. And for my grandpa, it was like, oh man, let's pray about it. Let's think. Let's come up with a diagram. Let's strategize. Let's role play how we're gonna do it. And then I will never forget, after all the hubbub around it, when he would finally get that dang boat in the water, and he hadn't run it since last July when we were in Hayward, and probably the same old ass gas too. That's just, by the way, if you don't know this, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't sit on the same gas for years and years and years. Gas goes bad. Okay? It goes bad. And that's bad for everything. It's bad for your fuel filters. It's bad for your fuel pump. It's bad for your injectors. It's bad, especially if you have a small amount of gas and it's really old. Woo! Bad news for everything. Carburetors, everything. But anyway, he would fire it up, and it would just crank and crank and crank and crank and nothing. Crank and crank and crank and crank and nothing. Crank and crank and rah! And then it would turn over. And the whole thing would shake like there was an earthquake. And there'd be this giant puff of smoke. And I mean, some of my favorite memories as a kid is smelling that old 2-stroke white puff of smoke that would come off of that motor, dude. I mean, that smell, like it's just, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That has to be the smell that you're talking about with those two old boys.
1,000%. Exactly what it was.
The best, dude. Today at work, actually, somebody was working on a Mercury Black Max, an older one, and that's a weird one too. I think it's 180 horse, maybe, like an 88 Mercury Black Max. I think it was a 180 horse was the number. But anyway, like there's like Hondas that are 140s, and like there's a bunch of weird numbers out there. But anywho, they fired it up at work, and it was smoking out like the install bay, and so they opened the doors, and I was like, no, leave them down. You know, like I want to smell it. Like,
Right.
I freaking love that smell, dude. It like brings me back, dude. It brings me back so fast. But anyway, that's it, man. Tackling tacos. Go be positive. Go freaking do something. Go freaking fish. No more excuses. No more talking about, I'm going to do it next year. I'm going to go to, you know, like huge shout out to the homie Mark LaFont sending me photos of him and his boy up there fishing. Where were they? Sturgeon Bay? No.
Yeah, I think it was
Mille Lacs?
Mille Lacs. It was Mille Lacs.
Yeah, they're out there fishing shaller on Mille Lacs, catching 5-pound smallmouth off of beds with drop shots and then putting them right back, which is dope. You know, so they go right back where they came from. Shout out to that dude for making plans and going out and fishing and doing what he likes doing. It's so easy to talk about, oh, I'm going to do this, oh, I'm going to do that, I want to fish potato. Well, go freaking do it. Go freaking fish Potato Lake. You know what I'm saying? Like, Chippewa Flowage, go fish it. It's awesome. It's right up the road. You want to get better at the river? Go put your boat in the river and fish it a bunch. There's just nothing holding us back except for us. So, you know, When I look back on my life, if I'm 70 years old and I crash into my legend boat and put a hole in it and die, I hope I die trying to go fishing. I hope I die trying to do something positive as opposed to sitting around and complaining or whatever. So that's it, man. Nate, you got anything else you want to get out of here?
No, that's it, man. You killed it. Perfect.
That's it. Tackling Tacos, tacklingtacos.com. I think what we'll do is July 1st. I had all these plans, boy. I had all these plans laid out. And then just like coughing on camera or on audio. Sorry about that. I smoke so much marijuana and that it really affects my throat.
All the weeds.
I actually don't smoke any marijuana, if anybody's wondering. Not any whatsoever. That's true. That's actually true. I don't. Anyway, just like, you know, the plans I had, and then we got neck deep into this, like, selling the house thing and then buying a new house. And, like, it is seriously the most overly complicated process ever. Why do they make buying a house so complex? My gosh. Anywho, so I had all these plans for designing new merch and designing new shirts and whatever, and I just haven't had time to do it, and so I don't want to keep waiting. So I think let's just say July 1st, Nate, we will launch the new hats. So I'm really excited about it. It's 2 specific hats and then 2 colors each, so 4 hats technically altogether. So one is finally the Richardson rope hats, which isn't like the standard Richardson shape. It's way trendier, cooler, and it's got the rope across the bill, and then the PVC patch, the Tackle Taco, like professionally permanently glued, adhered to the middle of that hat. And we're going to have them in a dark green color and like a burnt mustardy yellow color, and they are freaking dope. So July 1st, we're going to launch those. And then we also made, and they're really cheap, I think they're going to be like $12 or something, some Tackle and Taco dad hats. One is black with white lettering, and it just says tackle on top and taco upside down underneath it, or maybe tacos. Yeah, tacos. And then another one is a color called butter. It's just like this like kind of faded yellow color, and the font or the thread I think is black on that one. Tackle on top, tacos upside down underneath. That hat, kind of a small logo. Super, super comfy, floppy hat. You don't have to worry about like the form of it getting jacked up. You could throw it in like luggage or whatever. And we're going to launch those July 1st, tacklingtacos.com. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, sorry for the long pitch, but we love all of you for listening. The story about the boat and the tragedy and whatever, it's kind of tragic and it's kind of beautiful at the same time, and it's something I think I can and I want to learn from. So that's it. Positivity is worth the effort. We will catch you on the next one.
Peace.
Bye-bye.